Hello, everyone. Welcome to the fourth session of Solid Napoleon Networking. Today we have two amazing guests, Nirdista and Komal, who are going to be talking about LinkedIn and networking and the importance of it. So take it away, ladies.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session. My name is Nirdisha Sapkota, and I'm currently a senior at SNN Oswego in Oswego, New York, which is sadly nowhere near New York City. So I'm not in the cool places of New York. I am an interaction designer and a writer, and networking is one of my favorite things to do because I love talking, which you might notice during this whole presentation, and I think it's a very interesting way to meet people.
Hi guys, my name is Komal Ariel. I'm sorry if there's an echo. I think it's on my end. So just let me know. Thank you, Deepa, for letting us know earlier. But I am a research coordinator for the COVID and long-term care study here in Canada. It's a nationwide study where we're trying to understand how COVID impacts the elderly, as well as how the vaccine efficacy is for that vulnerable population. I'm a master's graduate from McMaster University, and I plan on pursuing a PhD in the near future. I love networking and promoting any sort of knowledge translation or interdisciplinary collaboration, and that's kind of my primary focus with the role that I have outside of work, but also sometimes inside of work if I'm lucky. So yeah, I'm really excited about presenting to you guys, and feel free to ask us or stop us and ask us any questions before, during, and after the presentation.
Okay, so we're gonna get started. So first of all, let's start with LinkedIn. Do you guys have a profile? If you do, I would highly suggest pulling it up during this session. It might be helpful if you kind of follow along. Just having it up there really helps. So one of the questions that I would like to ask is, how often do you update your profile? So if someone would like to answer, if not, we can move on. You don't have to engage, but how often do you update your profile? That's definitely something you should think about, specifically if you are actively looking for jobs, are thinking about pivoting, stuff like that. And what point of life are you at right now? Like, are you a professional who already has a career, or are you a student? So those are all factors you need to think about when you're on LinkedIn, because having a unupdated or a dead LinkedIn profile is definitely something that's that hampers you in the long run, because people do actively look at people online, like nowadays. And so it's very important to keep your social media profiles, whether it be professional or your personal ones, kind of updated. So the main thing, one of the first things that people will see when they look at your LinkedIn is your LinkedIn bio. And it's going to be something that's very important to ensure that it reflects what you want to do as a job, but also it reflects who you are as a person and what you would like to do. So kind of writing your LinkedIn bio in a way where it is relevant information, but still a true reflection of who you are, is the way to go. LinkedIn bios for students. So if you're a junior or senior in college, you definitely want to put down the type of career you're going for instead of saying that you are a student. So instead of saying like current student studying to be an accountant, looking for opportunities at XYZ, you should say aspiring accountant with experience in XYZ, looking for opportunities in the blank field or in the blank organization or stuff like that, because that you don't want to sound too studenty, because when they look at the rest of your profile, they'll see that you're still in school, and maybe if you're posting regularly, they will see that you are actively engaged in work experience or clubs and organizations on campus. So that's going to be something that will tell them that you are a student. So your bio should mostly reflect what you are aspiring to, instead of saying outright that you are a student. And so for pivoting professionals, the one thing that you want to mention is that if you're pivoting, it's either because you started at a career that you realize you didn't like, or you worked in a field that you feel like you've given your all and you want to move on to like newer things. So you want to make sure that you mention in your bio that you want to pivot, because since you're going to have a lot of your professional experience in the field that you are already working in, having the word or just having some sort of phrasing that tells people that you are looking to pivot into a new field is very important. So instead of saying a journalist working for NPR, I am interested in marketing and PR, it makes more sense for you to say journalist working at NPR looking to pivot to PR and marketing with experience in doing XYZ tasks. And here, when I say XYZ tasks, you can kind of relate to how you've done certain things in the past in your old profession that relate to the new profession that you're trying to pivot to. So as a journalist, you are writing like PR, like you do write PR material. Maybe you have worked as a ghostwriter for like big companies before as a freelancer. So that's something you can mention in your, well, I'm trying to pivot. These are the things I can do, or these are the skills that I have. If you have attended workshops and stuff like that regarding the new profession that you're trying to pivot to, you want to make sure that you're highlighting those on your profile as well. And so LinkedIn bios for professional, you kind of want to make sure that like you're highlighting your achievements and your strengths instead of making it just be boring. Like this is something I've seen my dad do, which is kind of where I learned to like do better than that, is instead of saying an engineer for Apple, like who's worked there for 5 years, you kind of want to say engineer in Apple leading XYZ project for X amount of years. I have an experience with these kind of softwares, and this is my passion. So kind of, talk about what makes you stand apart in your field and what you're doing well or what you think you want to learn about. So maybe like you might be an engineer, and sadly, I don't know anything about engineering, but this is like an example, so an example of something that you could say is like, well, I'm really experienced in computer engineering, but I would like to learn a little bit more about software engineering. So maybe putting that on your bio as well can make it seem like you are someone who's open to learning, which is something I think a lot of companies are looking for now, is they want to make sure that you are someone who's adaptable and is willing to learn. Do we have any questions from anyone? I know some people are listening to us. If you guys have any questions, please let us know. Yes, no, I'm good to move on. Okay. I got the thumbs up from Komal, so I'm just going to move on.
I will, if there is a question and you guys don't want to ask it, if you just write it in the chat box, I can keep that updated, and Nira and I can let each other know.
Yes, please. Okay. So, but most important out of anything that you put on your LinkedIn, you want to make sure that some of your personality is in there. So even though so I want to be a designer. Like I am a designer. I want to work for companies as a designer. And so something that I think is very important to me is like, I like to write. And so that's something I definitely want to mention on my LinkedIn bio. And that's something that I try to incorporate more in my LinkedIn, is that I have these other interests outside of something that I want to do as a career, because it makes me seem as a more well-rounded person. And it also makes me seem like a real person. It shows that I have interests outside of what I want my career to be. So that's definitely something you want to include as well. Just make sure that like you're sprinkling some of your personality in there, just, because then at the end of an interview, you might have some fun things to talk about, or even at the start of the interview, just to break the ice while you're waiting for other people to show up, or you're early at your interview, you can talk to someone about like, oh yeah, so I saw on your LinkedIn profile that you like to write. So what do you like to write about? Or something like that. So it gives you like a little bit of an icebreaker. So that's usually really fun because people love to talk about themselves. And so networking on LinkedIn. So after you've made like a good first impression, essentially with like a bio that kind of relates to who you are and like also shows a bit of your personality, you want to start looking at companies or people that you are interested in. And the best way to do that is like, I love Chipotle. Like I absolutely adore Chipotle, and my biggest goal, like not my biggest goal, but like if I could ever work at Chipotle as like a designer for them, I would love to do that. So I follow Chipotle on LinkedIn. I have gone through their whatchamacallit. So you can look at people who work at Chipotle, and you can see like which person has a profession similar to what you are trying to do. And so you can add those people, and you can like cold message them on LinkedIn or connect with them or follow them, whatever. But I would highly suggest sending them a message when you connect with them, and then just like messaging them like, hello, like my name is X, Y, and Z. I'm a student who is studying this, or like I'm a professional who is doing this, and I would really like to understand what it is like working at your company. What exactly do you do on a regular basis? Like, what is your day like? What is your week like? And so doing that will definitely help you kind of build a network of people that are in a similar profession to you or the profession that you're interested in. It helps show that you are interested, like it also keeps you updated on the company news and stuff like that. And when you are following these companies or these people who work at the company that you're interested in, you will see their posts and stuff, which you should be interacting with, because that's keeping you updated, but that's also a good way for you to network with people, because you will find people with common interests in the comment section. So if I see, I think Dwayne Johnson, my examples are very like out there, I'm sorry, but Dwayne Johnson is doing a guac on the rock thing for the release of his vodka, I think, no, his tequila, and for his birthday, so from May 1 to May 5th, he's like giving out free guac with, I think, collaborating with certain companies. So since Chipotle is like a very popular chain here in the US, maybe Dwayne Johnson is doing a collaboration with Chipotle. And then so that's something that you can like kind of comment on and be like, oh my God, yes, like Dwayne Johnson, what an amazing man. This is a great collaboration, whatever. And you could potentially find more people there. Or maybe, if anything, maybe you designed a poster. Well, this is becoming very designery, and I'm sorry, but so because I'm a designer who's interested in working for Chipotle, I can design a poster and then just comment it on their post about their collaboration, and then be like, hey, like I was so excited about this, I made this thing. And then so that way you're getting visibility out there. But I would definitely say don't spam people. That is definitely a big red flag, and that is a way for people to kind of put you on like the block list. So like they literally probably will ignore you if you keep like messaging them and spamming them. So that's something to look out for. Another thing you should do is like you should definitely be messaging people whenever you find someone that you think is interesting or is relevant, will be a relevant contact for you. Just make sure that you are connecting with people and just messaging them, and you're just like, hello, like always introduce yourself. So whenever you're starting, always start by introducing yourself. So be like, hi, my name is XYZ. I'm a like, so related information about the person that you're reaching out to. So suppose you are reaching out to like the hiring manager at Chipotle, you would be saying, hello, like I'm a designer who wants to work at the company, and I really wanted to see what it was like there. I would love to connect with you to talk about the UX designer or the visual designer position in your company. Please let me know if I can connect with you and we can have a conversation about this. If not, could you please like point me to someone that I could talk to? And so that way, even if that person might not be comfortable talking to you or they don't want to talk to you, they can still maybe take you to someone else. And even if they like ignore you, like you didn't know them in the first place, and then the fact that you still don't know them isn't really harmful. It just gives you more experience in like cold messaging people on LinkedIn, and like it just kind of helps you build those skills. And 9 out of 10 times, like people love to talk about themselves, like I mentioned earlier, and they like to talk about their job and what they're doing if they're passionate about it. And so they would love to relate that information to you, as long as you're approaching it in a way where you're making it seem like you're not trying to take up a lot of their time. And also, if you met someone at like a talk or like a workshop or something like that, always add them, because a lot of the times people will send in their LinkedIn profiles or their contact information. So always email people or connect with them on LinkedIn and then send them a message after you attended an event or a workshop or whatever, and then talk about what specific thing about the workshop or the talk you liked. Especially if you like had a chance to talk to them one-on-one, just be like, hi, like my name is Nirdisha, like I heard you at this talk the other day, and I really like the fact that you talked about Dwayne Johnson so much. Like I also really like Dwayne Johnson. So that's something you can kind of make a mutual thing about yourself, and hopefully that will move the conversation forward. So definitely kind of make sure that you're talking about points that they talked about, so it shows that you were paying attention at that event that you attended, and that also gives them like a chance to get your opinion on something they said, and so it becomes like an exchange of ideas. And now I think it's time for Komal to start. If you guys have any questions, like I mentioned, please drop it in the chat, or you can ask us it out loud if you're able to. But Komal, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Awesome, thank you. So after we've connected with the people that we are, or the companies that we're interested on LinkedIn, it's kind of like, now what? We've sent out the first message, we've showed them that we're interested in learning more about them, but we can't just end our networking there. So the focus of my section of the presentation is going to be on the now what. How are we conducting these informational interviews? How are we emailing them or instant messaging them or following up with them in general? And how are we updating our statuses regularly so they keep our profiles and us as a person in mind when there are new job opportunities in the market for us? Thank you. So with that being said, I'm going to start by just talking about like the informational interviews. And this is a very critical step, I feel, in any sort of networking domain. And the reason for that is that informational interviews will really show you who you are, show the interviewee who you are. And not only will you get information about, career objectives, how they enjoy their position, and really an unbiased reflection on their role of that person or of that company, but it will let you take the lead as an interviewer. So you can ask informative questions that you can think about going forward as well. So one of the questions to think about is, how do we present ourselves at an informational interview? And the benefit of, Zoom interviews is you can actually just like take notes as you speak to people on your laptops or computers. And, you can have a video conference where you are able to really gauge what it is that they're talking about, ask follow-up questions, search Google while you're doing these informational interviews. But you want to make sure that you're focusing on presenting yourself in a way that shows that you are interested in their role, why you're interested in their role, and how can you keep engaging with them so that in the future, if there is a possible way for you to interact with them or work with them, that you are their primary go-to person. So you want to show them that you're enthusiastic, you're passionate, that you are really interested in what it is that they do, and you are really trying to build yourself for that specific career role or that place in that company. So that's kind of the one way I like to say you should present yourself. Now, at the end of that summary, I do want to say you want to be as authentic as possible. And that comes with the idea of really, really focusing on who you are and reflecting on who you are as a person. Just because you're interested in, and we'll keep the engineering example, although I'm not an engineer myself. But if you are an engineer and you're focused on software development and that's something that you're truly passionate about, you don't want to just show up in an informational interview just showing your passion for engineering. And likewise, you don't want to do the same thing in an interview. You want to be human. And in that context, you want to be able to talk about, hiking on the weekends with your friends, or how you are very interested in something artistic. You want to really show what your personality is. And with that, sorry, next slide. I had a little bit of an activity planned, and if anyone wants to participate, they can. If not, I'll kind of go through the example and kind of talk through this activity so that everyone has an idea of how you have to think about yourself in an informational interview. But primary thing to keep in mind is that you want to build a relationship. And that's the main motive behind these informational interviews. So you will be interviewing them about their career, role, objectives, outcomes, but you really want to think about building that connection. And that connection is honestly, truly always built. And I don't want to use the word a term honestly, actually. I want to use the term most likely built through discussions about hobbies, interests, extracurriculars, news, anything actually outside of that career role. And so really learning how to embrace that as a medium of building connection is what will keep you a top priority for that individual. So for example, imagine as an informational interviewee, I was the one that was being interviewed about the role that I have as an engineer. And you as an interviewer had a question about, what do I do for fun on the weekends? And as someone in this position, I answered saying, this weekend I'll be volunteering at a soup kitchen to serve the homeless. I try to volunteer at the soup kitchen about once a week, not only to give back, but to connect to others who have a different story and see how I can advocate for these residents. And hearing that, you might be taken aback. You're thinking, this guy is a software engineer and he takes time on the weekends to volunteer at a soup kitchen for the homeless. How am I supposed to connect to that? Because that might not be something that you do. But the key here is to really tease out what he's saying. He was saying that he was trying to give back. Maybe you are involved in some sort of charitable organization that you could speak to at this point. You could say, oh, that's amazing. Good for the work. That's amazing. That work that you're doing is incredible. I do something similarly where I help, animals that have gone through abuse, and I work at an animal shelter. So that's where the conversation builds. That's how you really connect to someone on a topic outside of work. Now, in the future, when there is a job opportunity, they're not going to think about, there was Komal, a software engineer, and she talked about like all of her crazy experiences from university. They're going to think, oh, Komal, that's the engineer that also works at an animal shelter. And that's kind of the key point in building a relationship that you want to keep in mind, is how you build those connections that are in the informational interview, where you do get all the questions that you want answered about the job, about the role. And that's kind of secondary. Primarily is how do you build that connection with that network? So I'm going to pause there for a second. Does anyone have any questions about that? Don't see anything. So we'll keep going. So the second point in informational interviews is what types of questions we want to ask. It's very easy for us to be like, so what do you do? What does your job entail? It's very easy to ask, like, what softwares do you use to code your program? But you want to be specific with the type of question you're asking, because when you're interested in a career or a job, you're really interested in a lifestyle. And you want to be able to not only ask, like, what is it that you do? You want to ask specific questions. You want to say, what kind of projects do you work on currently? And how has the skills and educational background that you bring shaped your ability to work on those projects? You want to be able to think about what you bring to the table and how that can be mimicked in the person that you're interviewing. You also want to focus on what kind of skills they're looking for. You want to be like, what are the most important characteristics of successfully completing your role? Now, as a health researcher myself, I know that off the bat that one of the most important characteristics in the type of work that we do is compassion. Because although we're collecting data from human beings about their health. We can't forget that it needs to be completely voluntary. If I see someone's not compassionate, that's a red flag to me when we're hiring our students or employees. So that's something that you want to keep in mind. How do you show those characteristics in a job, and find out what kind of characteristics people that work in that position think are most valuable? You also want to ask about work-life balance. And the reason why that's very important is because a lot of companies have different ideas of work-life balance. And you want to see if that even fits the work-life balance that you want to have for yourself, but also you want to see if that work-life balance is helpful in understanding how you should interview with that person or that company in the future. The great thing about informational interviews is that it's all about information. You're going to be able to really understand that work-life balance from someone in an unbiased manner. They're not interviewing you, you're not interviewing them. There's no reason for them to really lie. So it's a very helpful way to think about how to connect to someone. I do have a list of questions that are really good informational interview questions, which, aren't one-word answers like, how do you like your job? Good, right? And if that's something that you are interested in when you're conducting these informational interviews, reach out to me. You can email me or send me a message. And I'm happy to share those with you. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of skip to the next part of the presentation. But you want to be very transparent. So after you've gone through this whole process of going through the informational interviews, avoiding questions that are very challenging to think about on the spot for an informational interviewer, or questions that don't really resonate with the role that's very important. And you've built a relationship that you can talk where it's not just about the job, but a connection with this person, so that you build these long-lasting relationships. And you did this over an informational interview, and you did this because you sent a message to someone on LinkedIn, you scheduled a coffee chat with them, and you got all this information that you needed. You know about that job and you know about the career. Now it's about following up. And one of the key questions that I always get asked is, do you have to keep a regular relationship with this new network of yours? And what I mean by a regular relationship is, should you be messaging them once a week or once every other week to be like, hey, what's up? Are they your friends? What kind of balance do you keep with your networks? And personally, I think one of the most important things about your relationships with your networks is you have to focus on being natural. So there is no really good time frame. If you feel that the new network you created is someone that you really connect to and you someone that you want to keep in touch with, go ahead, ask them about their day-to-day activities, ask them about the new projects that they're working on. But if you feel like this is more of a network that was like you got the information that you wanted from a coffee chat, you just want them to keep your profile in mind in case of opportunities, and you will share, you will be connected to each other on LinkedIn or any other social media site, so that if they post something or you post something, you can comment, like, share it, then that's okay too. There really isn't the need to force a relationship, especially with social networking, because you really want to focus on being authentic and being yourself, but also having different groups of people remember you for different reasons. And a network's sole purpose isn't always just to be your friend, but also to be someone that, is not always to be a gateway into a career, but it could also be to just be a friend. So you want to keep that in mind, that you want to do whatever works naturally. And then the next question that I get asked a lot about following up is, when is it appropriate to connect with your network about a job opportunity? So if you did an informational interview, or you spoke to somebody on LinkedIn and you notice that there's a job opportunity, is it okay to talk to them? And the answer is yes. There is no right time or wrong time to connect with someone about a job opportunity. Somebody that's on LinkedIn is under the impression that if there is a role that they could provide to others, they want to find the ideal candidate. So you want to be able to seize those opportunities to the best of your abilities. And I can't stress and emphasize this enough, that it's very important not to hesitate to take that first step to reach out, because everybody is interested in being able in helping you. And that's exactly why they're using that platform. So there's never an inappropriate way or an inappropriate time to connect with others. And when I say inappropriate way, don't say, remember that in an inappropriate way, there are certain contexts that you should avoid. Like, you shouldn't be talking about politics or religion, or any of those sensitive topics with the people that you're connecting with. But you want to really focus on trying to build that connection and just contact them whenever you see a new opportunity. And another question that I get here is also, can you reach out to your network about jobs posted on LinkedIn? When you build a network, and let's say that network is like a software engineer from Apple, like we've been talking about, you want it, it's not likely that there's going to be a software engineering position at Apple that you're able to seize within the next couple of months. You can reach out to your network about just help on your application, on your resume, on interview tips and tricks, even if they work for a different company, or even if they work at Apple but they aren't an engineer. And that's the beauty of networking, is that when you network with others, you build a relationship where it's more of like a feedback loop. You know, you provide feedback or insight, or they provide feedback and insight, and you kind of help each other grow. And that's, you know, the beauty of it. And in the past, or at least when I was going through school, we used our teachers or our professors as a networking medium, right? And they would always write us reference letters or be there to support our applications. But now it's kind of switching up, because you build your own networks. It's not people that you might have interacted with in the past necessarily. It could just be people that you've connected with through social media. So reaching out to your network about jobs posted in that environment or not posted in that environment is actually a very important way to connect with them. And your reference can be or your network can be a reference as well for you, for that company. They can be someone that just reviews your application. They can be someone that you know, helps you with interview tips and tricks for that company. So keeping that network close to you is very important. And you always want to think about asking them about the ways that they can help you, the ways that they're comfortable helping you. And it is a question that you can ask at the informational interview as well. But you want to make sure that once you follow up with them after an informational interview or after a chat on LinkedIn, that you're focusing on building a healthy relationship with them. That doesn't seem forced. A network is just a network. If it turns into a friendship, for example, that's great. But if it doesn't, you just keep networking with them, and they just stick to the social media platform and help you in any way, shape, or form that they can. Next. So now that we've talked to everyone, we have our network, how do we keep each other in the loop? You know, you want to just keep this as a very professional relationship. So you want to update your status. And what I mean by this is, as a LinkedIn professional, you want to be able to share different posts, talk about your achievements and improvements. You know, if you got a raise, if you got an award, if you published a paper, you want to post that on LinkedIn. And I'm not so great at doing this myself. A lot of us, when we get a job, we become comfortable and we just, don't think about LinkedIn. But it's very important to keep yourself updated. It's kind of like updating your resume regularly, because you want to focus on being able to share that new experience and the new award that you received on your social media, so people know that you are constantly working towards building yourself and your career. So you want to be able to share things about yourself, any life updates. You also want to share posts that other people post. And a great way to keep in contact with your LinkedIn is with your network is if they update their status, commenting, liking, sharing that, or if they post something about the company or about an environmental issue, you share that. And that really just keeps you connected to them, even though it's not a personal connection, but it keeps your name in their mind and it's always fresh. There's obviously a lot of controversial stuff that gets shared on social media. So if you notice that, for great examples, if you notice that somebody is a conservative and they're sharing something that, a post that says, climate change doesn't exist, something very, very against your values or your beliefs, you don't need to share that. And if you are the type of personality that would comment on that and post about your views and why that isn't something that you're okay with, that's okay as well. You don't want to get into a heated debate or argument on social media. That might be a safer conversation to have with that person at a later time, but you don't have to share things that are controversial to you, or that's something that you're not okay with. You built a network doesn't necessarily mean you agree with all the things that they share. So you want to just share the posts that are helpful for you to know, and the posts that will garner the most amount of interest for your networks, but also a way for them to keep you in mind. So with that being said, I have a couple more tips, but that kind of ends the what next portion. First and foremost, as soon as this call ends, I want you guys to go onto your LinkedIn profile. And before connecting with networks, you need to first build your own network. And the best way to do that is by connecting to friends, family, colleagues, people that you went to school with on LinkedIn. And the reason why is a lot of times when companies look you up on LinkedIn, they want to see who you've connected to. And if you've only connected to, 4 or 5 people, that's a kind of a red flag. Why do you have such a small group of networks? And a lot of times when you connect with people, like, for example, classmates, you branch into knowing people from different facets of the world, or different facets of interdisciplinary sciences or languages or maths. And that's really important because you want to build a very, very diverse profile. So the first step for you is to go and connect with everyone that you know on LinkedIn or on any other social media site. I use Twitter actively for academia. And if that's something that you think is somewhere where you can connect to others, it's a great place to start. You also want to reconnect with people that you haven't spoken to in a long time. And this might be different for various people, but when I was in my undergrad days, many, many years ago, I had the opportunity to connect with a lot of students, and I haven't spoken to some of them in a while. It's been like 5-6 years since we graduated. So going back and re-talking to those people or getting back into that, building that relationship is very important, and it will really help you connect to people that might be on the same career trajectory as you. You can work on things together. So if there's someone that is of interest that you want to talk to that you haven't spoken to in a while, networking through social media is great because they're on the platform for the same reasons that you are. Always follow up. It's very important that you don't want to coerce someone to talking it to you. You don't want to be the biggest pusher in their lives, but follow up as in share something, talk to them, say, hey, what's up, how's it going? Be as conscious as you can be when you speak to them, but at the same time, as kind as you can be. There's no harm in following up, and following up doesn't necessarily have to mean that you have to have a coffee chat with them. It could just be a simple message. It could be a sharing of their post. So try to keep yourself in their minds. It's very important with anybody that you connect with. Another thing that's very important is seek advice and expertise when you're uncertain. And I think that a lot of us are very scared to do that, especially with networking, because I feel like it's in this day and age, we're just expected to know how to network online. We're expected to know how to, send a message on Facebook. But how do we actually write an appropriate message on Facebook if we're trying to connect for a job opportunity? It's something that we don't always think about. So, seeking advice, seeking expertise is important. And it doesn't necessarily need to be advice or expertise from like a LinkedIn networking professional. It could just be advice and expertise from someone that has a good job at a company that works on social media. Or it could be someone, like a family or a friend that has had the opportunity to connect with others on social media, and it's worked. So just seeking advice from anybody really is very helpful for you in being able to connect with them appropriately. Another tip that I like to give to everyone is lend a virtual hand. And when I say that, I mean that mentoring is just as good as networking. Neera and I, we're not professionals either. We don't work for LinkedIn, unfortunately, as amazing as that would be. But being able to mentor others is really allowing us to learn as well, the importance of networking, or the importance of being able to connect with others. And I think of taking that approach is very, very important. You want to be able to mentor someone in a topic or an area that you feel comfortable talking about. And it doesn't necessarily have to be about social media. It could be about anything. And your mentees don't necessarily have to be other students. They can just be people that you enjoy talking to regularly, or friends, families, parents for that matter. So lending a virtual hand is one of the most important ways to really grow. You want to be that student that became the teacher, and that really does help you learn how to improve your profile. And finally, you want to keep a very up-to-date profile. Like I mentioned before, you want to be able to speak to others about how you can keep your profile up to date. You want to be able to show people that you can keep your profile up to date. Always post about new achievements. It's one of the most important ways to connect to others on LinkedIn. So do not hesitate when there's something minor or major. Make sure you're always posting about the skills and competencies you have. If you learn a new language, or if you can speak more than one language, that's something you want to highlight on your LinkedIn, because that's how people really get to know more about you. If there's various different roles, even if they're part-time, volunteer, extracurricular, you want to highlight those. You want to show how dynamic you are. You also want to focus on, updating, making sure that you're picture on LinkedIn is professional. You don't want to look like, you just woke up and you took a picture. You really want to show that, you care about how you present yourself. And appearances don't really matter as much, I would say, but you really want to show that you can take the time and effort into looking professional. And that's very important in this job industry. You want to be able to seek advice for that too, if that's something that you're not comfortable doing yourself. So just always keep your profile as up to date as possible, and with truthful information, so that way you'll be very successful in what it is that you're learning. So with that being said, the last tip I have for you is always, always, always remember to have fun. Because although this is a challenging journey, finding a job, networking with others, a lot of times you build very meaningful connections, and it's really fun to be able to speak to others, go outside your comfort zone, and really build that relationship. So always have fun, and I think that there's no better way to put that. So with that being said, this concludes our presentation. We are happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time or at a later time. You can contact me or I in any way you'd like. So I guess we'll hang on for a little bit to see if there's any questions. And then if there isn't, then you guys are free to enjoy your weekend.
Just want to add, we do have like some of the activities, and we are going to make the slides available. So please feel free to like follow along with the activities and reach out to us on LinkedIn and stuff like that, just if you want to, as part of that.
Hi, yeah.
Yeah, I have a quick question. Like talking about the LinkedIn, for example, you connected with someone like 6 months back or a year back, but like you really don't talk now. So do you have any recommendation on like how to reconnect or re-establish the relationship?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Deepa. Thank you. I think, and look, I'm just going to re-say the question for anybody on Zoom. Deepa asked if you connected with someone 6 months ago on LinkedIn, but unfortunately, due to whatever reason, you weren't in contact with them and you want to reach out to them again. What's the best way to go ahead and connect with them? And I would say, think about the way that you connected with them the first time. Did you send out a message? Did you speak to them over Zoom, or did you meet them in person? Those 3 different ways have different approaches on how you would connect them at a later date. And also, what's the reason that you want to connect to them 6 months later? So I'll give you a situation. Let's say you had a coffee chat with someone over Zoom 6 months ago, and right now you want to connect with them because there's an amazing job opportunity in their company and you want to seize that opportunity. Then you want to be as casual, as informative as possible, but also understanding that they're not obliged to help you. So the one thing I would do is I'd reach out and be like, hey, so-and-so, it's been a while since we've chatted. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had last time. There's like a new opportunity that I was interested in, and I was wondering if I could connect with you since you provided some great feedback last time, and see if you had an opportunity to speak with me. Please let me know. And one thing I suggest is always say that you're available to chat by email or by phone. And the reason I say that is because a lot of times people don't have time to just sit there and talk to you over the phone, or some people don't like sitting there and sending out emails. So if you give them both options, they'll respond to you in whatever they feel most comfortable responding to you in. And in the case of LinkedIn, you could say, feel free to message me or give me a call. Since email is probably not going to be the way that you're connecting with them anyway. So that's the approach I would take. Now, if it's someone that you connected, just on LinkedIn, you just added them as a friend to your, or added them as a network, you can, and you haven't spoken to them before, you can just say, hey, thank you for joining my network 6 months ago, or just thank you for being my friend, or just like, thank you for connecting. Whatever you think that relationship works best in, and be like, I had a few questions for you. I'm wondering if you had some time to discuss them with me. Please let me know what your schedule is like, or please let me know if you'd like me to schedule something, or please let me know how you'd like me to ask them. You never want to message someone and be like, hey, this is the list of questions that I have for you. Can you answer them? Because it's very overwhelming. for them. So I think that one of those options where you give them a second chance to talk to you, or kind of you give yourself some time to talk, to build that connection, is very important.
And just to add to, sorry, I just wanted to add something to that. Another way of like keeping your connections alive on LinkedIn, like you don't have to keep messaging people all the time. If you see their posts or their content on LinkedIn, just like liking it or putting a comment down, like congratulations, like, or this is great. Or if they shared an article on LinkedIn, you can just comment on it and be like, hey, like, this is really cool. Thanks for sharing. Stuff like that. It will help you keep that connection building, even though you guys are not actively talking to each other. It's still passive engagement. So when you do reach out to them at any given point in the future, it's not going to be like a very awkward conversation. It wasn't like a time when you talked to them once and then you just never contacted them again. So just like commenting on people's posts or like liking it or celebrating it or whatever is going to help you keep that like very passive interaction going. So you can both just be like, oh, they're still paying attention to what I'm saying or what I'm posting. So that's another way to kind of like keep that connection going, even though you're not actively talking to them.
Thank you, Deepa, for your question. Does that answer it?
Yeah, it did. Thank you so much for clarifying.
Awesome, no problem. Does anyone else have any questions at this time?
That seems like a no, I think. But like we said, we would be very glad to answer any questions, or and like if you want to follow along with the activities that we had set up on our presentation once the video gets uploaded on YouTube. Please follow along. Please send us a message on LinkedIn or email us or reach out to us however you feel comfortable. I think that's it for us.
Perfect, Nirista and Kamal. Thank you so much for taking the time on your Saturday to, guide us through the LinkedIn and networking session. This was our fourth and final session for the month of April. We have a couple more sessions planned for May, so be on the lookout for that. And as it was mentioned, we will be uploading the slides and the video that I've recorded on Zoom onto YouTube and onto our Facebook group. So if you're not part of the group, be sure to join the group and you can see the previous sessions, which we've had 3 sessions already in the last month, in addition to this one, so the 4th one. And if you have any other questions, you can direct them to me or any of our guest speakers. So once again, thank you so much and have a wonderful Saturday, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.